at some point, most of the people have to realize that the cracks are a sign of the system failing. Much of it is leadership, some of it is just people losing their faith in the system itself. Also, generational things coming up, bigger cycles turning, and also, I believe it has to do with sun cycles, but we don't have to get into that. What you have to know is that the mentality is shifting in the people slowly but surely. We're just seeing the first few drops, but it is shifting. So you gotta get prepared. You gotta get prepared mentally first of all. If you have that, then you can take a look at this whole situation actually as an opportunity, which it is. It is a huge opportunity for many. However, you need to put yourself in that mindset, right? Wealth doesn't disappear, it just changes hands. It's a reallocation of wealth. We are now seeing the bubble pop, most likely. We might still have a year, 2 years, who knows, right? But we are now seeing that top of the cycle types of big movements up and down, right? Velocity picking up. So if you look at this whole thing as a big opportunity, then you can position yourself regarding your family, your assets, your connections, and really your whole community, where you can help other people, or you can be actually useful in this world where illusions are popping, because that's what's really happening here. The illusion is fading and the illusion is cracking up, right? And there's a return to the real stuff, the real world. But it's hard, right? There's an expansion cycle and a contraction cycle. That's how we are as people, right? We overextend and then we come back to reality. But then we lose faith and then we have to regain faith. That's just human nature, right? Every so often this happens, right? But the bigger the illusion is, the harder the fall it seems, right? So you have to put that into context, right? I mean, if people are selling NFTs, which is basically a record of of a JPEG in a proprietary database somewhere that is loosely related to you and the JPEG, if those sell for $300,000 or thousands of dollars, I mean, how is that different than, you know, basically tulips being sold back in the day in Holland, right? It's not much different. And yes, you can make a lot of money. You can make tons of money. And by God, you know, if you can make it, whatever, but know that you're participating in a big illusion, right? So, eventually it has to end, right? And now with digital real estate and that sort of stuff, I mean, you could sell real estate on the moon, right? I mean, any programmer could just map the moon and we can sell real estate. As long as there is faith in it and there's demand for it, there will be a supply, right? And people will supply these illusions for you, and then you can buy into it, and more people buy into it, and if you were first, then you get to make money. Okay, so that's fine, right? But you need to be able to see clearly that these are illusions, and eventually, we don't know how far it can get. Usually top of the cycles can get crazy, but eventually illusions will pop, right? So look at what assets and what other things in life right now are undervalued. There's very few now because reality is catching up shortly and fastly, right? So it's catching up fast. However, there are still undervalued assets, right? So take a look at some skills that will be useful. We can talk more about it, but think about what is real, what is necessary, right? And the metaverse is always a big promise, but eventually will have to come down a little bit because technology goes through cycles, and usually there's a hype cycle. So after the hype cycle, it has to come back a little bit, actually quite a lot, and then it has to be forgotten for a while, and then it needs to be picked up somewhat again in order to be adopted by the masses. So watch out for those hype cycles, because that is how you can make a lot of money but also burn yourself. So at this point, you know what you should do. Well, if you don't know what to do, one of the best things you can do is diversify, right? Take a look at bigger categories that you can invest in, that you can put your assets in, but also regarding real life, you know, where are your friends at? Do you know people who have these types of skills, those types of skills, right? What do you know? What are you good at? How can you help? How can you make connections? So once you have that and you have food security, which is probably the most important, then you can work on the rest of it, right? But you gotta know what you can do in the real life: gardening skills, mechanic skills, you know, people skills, being able to build, being able to barter, those types of things, right? Because when the rest of the people are focusing their attention into digital reality, you have to kind of pre-position yourself into the real world, because when they will be coming back, right, then you can pick those up. So they say success is preparedness meeting opportunity. Well, now is the time to prepare, right? And then you'll have that opportunity soon enough, I believe. And then assets will be shifting. Assets will be shifting, and you will be the one, right? But you gotta have to be able to pre-position yourself, right? So I think, to be honest, this is a great opportunity for small businesses. I know it's probably that it doesn't seem like that, but it is. You know, a business of one, you can start with that, because what will happen is big companies will not be as flexible as small companies, and they will have to raise prices. They will have to raise very soon, I believe they will have to raise people's wages, right? And there's big inefficiencies that will happen in huge companies. So I think huge companies, well-established huge companies, who will not be able to navigate through these situations will have to fail, right? But I think those crumbs you will be able to pick it up with small companies. So one thing that happened in Romania, right, as these huge factories, communist factories, as they were failing, a lot of people did open up small shops at the periphery, at the edges of the city, right? They rented out these very bad places, but they were able to open up shop there, right? And the skilled labor that was fired from the factories, they were able to come up with their own solutions, right? For fixing cars, for fixing anything and everything, right? Because people have skills, right? All of these people who were let go back then had skills, right? But they had to be flexible. They had to be even flexible of what type of payment they took, right? And we can talk about that later. But also work hours, what they did, what they not did. You know, people are flexible. The issue is, in order to this to work, really government has to loosen up in the sense of regulations, right? One of the good things about the hyperinflation in Romania was that actually government was failing. The communist government was failing, right? And it actually failed completely, right? But that also meant that there was a short, very libertarian situation developing in Romania, right? Because we were actually moving into capitalism and the free market. So as long as that would be there, and that can be forced upon government, right? Voting the right people in, making your voice heard, you have to demand freedom one way or the other, right? If nothing else, then run for offices. You have to do it, right? Educate other people about the value of freedom. Freedom in order to make your life, you know, make opportunities in your own community and serve them, and that way you can be a much better help to them than these huge big companies, right, that don't care about anything other than profit. So There will be opportunities, right? But you have to be able to be flexible, and you have to step into the mentality of helping others through small businesses, the gig economy, whatever works. Now is the time to put your foot on the pedal. While everyone is talking about pain and talking about slowing down, watch out for those good opportunities, and we'll talk more about those on the channel. So have specific questions, and I'll share my knowledge and what I learned from my experience and from the experience of others that I interviewed on this channel. Thank you very much.